All right, good evening. It is 5 o'clock. I will call this board budget workshop to order. It is May 6, 2024, and we have a full quorum. Joe Tidwell, Christy Schmidt, Rich Senna, myself, Carlin Fryer, Garrett Wilson, Jessica Davila, and Maritza Gonzalez Cooper. So at this point in time, we will have open session for visitor comments, and there are none. So we will move to our budget workshop, and I will turn the meeting over.
All right, thank you so much. And we are back here again for a budget workshop. I want to recognize Jessica and Joe for giving us your input tonight on your last budget workshop. And I welcome all your input moving here on out. I'm sure you'll be in the audience when we approve the budget. Just kidding. You're more than welcome. And before we get started, I want to introduce Dr. Rhonda McWilliams. She is our Chief HR Officer, interim, supporting our district, and we're so thankful for her expertise. And I want to thank our team for doing incredible work every day. And we spend a lot of time together, and it's just been great to build the team and think about our future as we move forward. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wes.
All right, thank you. Hello, everybody. This will be the fourth time that we've met to do an official budget workshop, much less some of the discussions that we've had in Finance Committee. This has been a pretty interesting budget process this year compared to the other years that I've been here. Opening a campus combined with the lack of support from the state to change the financial funding formula has made it interesting. But nevertheless, let's dive in. Today we're going to talk about the financial outlook for the general fund, and for the first time we'll talk about the debt service fund and the child nutrition fund, and then what we're going to do from here. All right, general fund. Just to refresh, the most important thing that we're talking about when we're talking about the general fund is the driver of how many students we're going to have. Right now, we're sticking with the enrollment growth of 11,060, which is 150 greater than the October snapshot. The ADA from that would be 10,369. One of the important drivers when we're talking about our budget is our property values. I sent some information to you last week after we received all of our preliminary values from the 3 counties that we're in. We had budgeted based on a 10% increase in values based on the expiration of the homestead cap at 10%. But and we did see a pretty big decrease in exemptions. But the overall increase came in at 7%, and right now everybody in the know at the state is still predicting a 0.23 cent decrease in the M&O rate, and so that's what this current budget is based on so far. And y'all remember I've written and talked several times about the mysterious additional state aid affecting districts impacted by compression, and that at one point in time there was a template that showed a $6 million impact to the district. They have actually TEA has actually gotten comfortable enough to start discussing that at this point in time. It's actually incorporated in the template, and it does have an impact on the 24-25 budget. But I will say there is still debate on methodology. They have adopted a methodology, but there is still some debate about that, and I'm going to talk about the impact to the district that I'm seeing as we dive on in. Yes, sir. That assumes, thank you for that question, Mr. Senator. That assumes a 93.5% attendance rate. Yes, sir. I've raised it a little bit. The district is coming in at 94% of enrollment. So, yeah. You know, I went and looked today to see if the summary of finance included that. If you go by how it was written, it should. It should impact us, but we haven't seen that yet. The last update to the summary of finance from the state was April 11th, and they haven't reflected anything through April 11th. And it's conceivable. I just it neither in the template nor on the summary of finance. You know, the last template was released late in April, and there was no impact to 23-24 in the template. But that is a question that is on my mind as well. But we know what the impact is for 24-25 based on current methodology. And so I'm switching hands up here. In the February meeting, we gave you a picture of available revenues. I didn't skip a slide, did I? No, I did not. Okay. And so I wanted to refresh on that, where we talked about a $7 million increase to property taxes based on the 10% increase in values that you'll see on the second line there. There is nothing significant about the box around growth and collection rate interest. That's where my cursor was when I took a picture of the spreadsheet and put it in my PowerPoint. So the result of that based on our ADA and estimated FTEs for next year resulted in a $5.4 million decrease to state aid. Those are the two biggest components of what I presented in February to bring us to projected revenues of $98.2 million, which was almost $800,000 more than current amended budget. When you compare that with our base budget, you take out all the one-time costs and you consider the ESSER positions that we're going to bring in, which are our instructional coaches and emerging bilingual coaches for $680,000 there. We started off with negative available revenues, $260,000. Now, this is what we're seeing in May is with the preliminary values that have come in I've estimated those preliminary values to be 2% less than they are now, because we have to go through the appeal process. And that always brings them down a little bit. So that results in a $3.6 million increase in the overall levy, a $909,000 reduction in state aid, and the only difference in the base budget or the amended budget that we're based on since February is we did an amendment to on behalf in February. And so you see that $800,000 increase in on behalf payments, both on the revenue and on the expenditure side. So you'll notice that the change in revenue went up from $800,000 to almost $1.9 million. The primary reason for that increase is a $2 million increase in the additional state aid for districts impacted by compression. That's offset by updated information that we got related to the 24-25 fast growth allotment. We lost a couple $100,000 from prior year in that one, and updated numbers on the CCMR outcomes bonus. When they updated those numbers, we got a couple $100,000 less than what we were projecting at that point in time. So the overall increase of about $1.2 million. And that brings the projected available revenues up from negative $260,000 to positive $860,000. Does anybody have any questions about this? It does. It still has an estimate of $400,000 in there, based on enrollment of 400. So it's a conservative. You know, I believe Dr. O'Hare can confirm. I think what we were projecting was 469 was the enrollment based on the adopted boundaries. Yes, sir. So if that turns out to be the case, we'll get more, but right now it's projected at 400,000. All right. Okay, so here is the the guts of what we're talking about for the general fund budget. Starting off with available revenues of $861,000. The first thing that's going to affect that are any recurring budget amendments that we're anticipating to make in 23-24. And in June, I will bring a recurring adjustment to utilities for about $500,000. We talked about that the upward trend of utilities, and I just used budget at the time. It's that curve would be a lot steeper based on what we're going to see at the end of this year. That's going to be offset by there's some places in the budget that we're just not spending money, like copier leases. We just don't spend as much money on copiers as we used to, so I'm going to ramp that down about $75,000. So that net is about $450,000. The district has to pay as an employer to the TRS pension plan, that rate is going up in 24-25. That estimated effect is $57,000. We've received confirmation from TASB that our property interest rates are going to go up about 40%, and so that $371,000 is a reflection of that. In the first year of operations, you need all the little things to get a campus going. You need basketballs and waste baskets and all other good stuff like that. All the departments have compiled their numbers to the tune of about $320,000. I put a little bit extra in that because something's always going to be forgotten. So that's a $350,000 bill. It should be noted, I think Herf and Van Rob, we spent about $4 million. So this is the departments have done a pretty good job of paring down what they need. Yes, sir. That's a 40% increase. Yes, sir. Sure. Yeah. We need to add on for utilities at Wilson. So that's another $200,000. And then we get to staffing, and staffing is $2.4 million. The biggest components of that, of the staffing adds, are 12 net new teaching positions. This is to accommodate the opening of Wilson, and 16 administrative positions, which are all campus. The 16 administrative and auxiliary positions, excuse me, and those are all Wilson. About 469. So Wilson is about $2 million of that 2.4. Opening a campus is an expensive proposition from a personnel standpoint, and that is the hit for this year. That is the tough one. We allocate a non-campus payroll to or non-payroll campus expenses to each campus based on their ADA and FTEs, and because of the 150 student increase, that total is going to go up about $21,000. And then we have several budget initiatives that are really necessary to keep the programs like phonics moving forward that we've been committed to for several years, and that $72,000 is all teaching and learning department budget initiatives. That brings us to a $3 million deficit by itself. Those are for the most part costs that we can't avoid or entirely avoid at that point in time. The recommended deficit, like we talked about when we're talking about tenets of deficit budgeting, is 2%. That'd be about $2 million. All right. We have 3 scenarios laid out under that for compensation. The first one is to address some needed auxiliary positions through attendance incentives. This addresses drivers, monitors, mechanics that have to drive on a regular basis, and paraprofessionals on the campus that are instructional. That estimate's around $270,000. And then we have a 1% across the board and 2% across the board raise to give you a picture of the cost of those and what the deficit would be if those were adopted. Some information that we did find out today was that TRS Active Care released their new healthcare rates. The effect of that is about $600 more for a employee only, up to $2,000 for employee and family. That would be if the budget were to adopt, were to absorb that cost entirely. That cost would be about $900,000. So I'm full of good news on this slide. Does there have any questions or comments on this slide? Yes, ma'am. It does not. That's in the other budget, yes, sir. Well, what we've talked about is doing $200 a month for perfect attendance for drivers. Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm. On the health side, yeah. I know that this is somewhat the norm for school districts from the information that I've gathered so far, and TRS did keep it. You know, we actually had a reduction last year for Region 20, right? That was when TRS Active Care announced the rates last year. There was actually a decrease for us. Region 20 was outside the norm. No, it's not. It's not quick at all, and it's quite a commitment from a reserve perspective to get yourself in line. That whether we self-insured or went to somebody else besides TRS Active Care, we have to let them know the December before. Yes, sir. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's called an internal service fund, where we would charge instead of the employees paying a premium, we would determine internally what we would charge the employees, and we would collect those funds in an internal service fund to pay claims. You would have district contributions to help build that reserve. Over time, you would rely on the employee contributions to pay for those claims, but until that reserve is built up, you're just honestly praying that you don't get a preemie or one of those others that you're gonna pay out millions and millions of dollars on. No, I wouldn't say that's inaccurate. Our former CHRO and myself just have a different approach to that. I include total payroll costs as a percentage of total payroll costs when I come up with 1.5, and so mine is overstated, but that's I do that on purpose. So we overestimate because I can't go in under. It also includes on behalf and that she wouldn't include in that cost. Our adopted budget was a $1.7 million deficit. We based on what's that? Yeah, when you're talking about recurring costs, yeah. Now our current budget is much bigger than that, but we amended the budget to a $4.7 million deficit, but that was mostly based on one-time costs because of the 22-23 surplus, the $5 million surplus that we were going to spend out of, right? Right now, I'm showing we're in the low $3 million deficit, so better than what we budgeted, but I seriously doubt you'll see anything like what we saw in 2023. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Our beginning deficit, it's our base budget comprises most of that, any recurring costs that we currently have. So we've taken our base expenditures, pulled out any one-time costs like some of the safety and security projects that we committed to last year, the $1.7 million that we committed to for retention incentive that we paid out in December. Those were one-time costs that we pulled out of this budget. Our bond ratings, it can. Yeah, if over time we overcommitted on a deficit budget and started consistently reducing year over year our fund balance, it would affect the report that I sent out from Moody's does outline those as one of the factors. Yes, that what we're putting forward here would say, in theory, we're adopting a budget that would reduce fund balance by $3 million. If we came in at 25 million, let's say that, and reduced it to 22, mm-hmm. We're yeah. 3, yes, ma'am. Yes, yes, it does. Yes, sir. It is. It is. Custodians is going to be, vacancies normally provide a budget savings, but with the exception of the custodial, where it's a little bit more expensive to fill those vacancies with somebody else. The special ed is another area. There are services that still have to be performed. You have to hire somebody to do that. That's more expensive than employing an LSSP or an SLP to do those things. That's a great question. I'll have to dive into that a little bit. Mm-hmm. Uh, 53 currently employed, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, there we go. We're basing it on 70. Mm-hmm. We got 4 employee classes that were included in the 270, including the teaching aides. You got drivers, monitors, mechanics, and teaching aides were the 4 classes. I budgeted those at about 25% of our all of our positions, assuming that. Yes, sir. I've got a history of that. In fact, why don't we just, yeah, that's the next slide. So here's a 5-year history of our compensation efforts. Starting in 1920, 4% raise across the board. We did a one-time payout retention incentive of $500 for teachers and $100 for all other positions. 2021, we did 2.5%. $100 retention bonus, $50 for everybody else. 21-22, we did a 1% raise, and then mid-year we did a $2 an hour increase for all auxiliary personnel. That's remained in place. It was adopted as an emergency initiative for retention, but that $2 an hour stayed in place. We did a $325 mid-year retention bonus, 3.5% in 2023 with no retention incentive, and then 3.44% last year, $1,500 to teachers, $1,000 for everybody else. That adds up to about 14.5% over the last 5 years that we. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We've discussed all of those, and I'm going to invite Mr. Stahl to chime in at any point in time because he's been very, very involved in these conversations. I think we landed on the attendance incentive being the most beneficial in terms of making use of the resources we have and improving the morale of the employees within the existing department.
Yeah, so out of all the districts that we visited with that offer the signing bonuses for CDL or non-CDL drivers, the fruit wasn't just falling from the tree. It was a pretty low participation rate. There was not much success to it. So at that time, we changed gears, and like Mr. Scott said, we felt it would be better for the incentive bonus, and giving that, like you said, would encourage them to come to work, especially during the school year.
Yes, sir. Yes, and we've examined that as well. And I'm just sitting here talking to you. At any point in time, you just rip the mic out of my hand. We did examine that. The attendance rates for teachers is about 92% when you compare to the students that are here. Our our actual ADA rate's over 95%, right? So the cost, estimated cost to do that for teachers is about $600,000.
And so we were digging through all these options, and when we were talking about teachers, at that point, like, when would we just give a raise? Because there's a ton of work that goes into tracking, writing the rules, following through, making sure, there's an appeal process if there's questions down the road. So there's a lot of work to doing an incentive type program, and we're kind of balancing, which employee groups.
Mm-hmm.
I think you asked earlier how much we pay the custodial contractor per year for both high schools. It's 355,000.
Well, and I had the same conversation with Wes a while back, because we gave this stat to one of our committees. If we would raise our attendance by 1%, it would equate to $680,000. And so, right. So we could definitely be messaging all of that. Brian can help us put together a messaging plan for attendance. And when you think about, every day counts, and giving regular updates to parents in the campus weekly newsletters, we need to have kids here. So we are right in the middle of campus planning for next year. We have a principal meeting on Thursday. We could put it back on the agenda when they're working on their campus goals for next year. Attendance has to be a key piece, and bring those conversations back around.
And I will say that's been consistent messaging this year. I think Dr. O'Hara's done a good job of really preaching to the principals about that, and they've done a good job of trying different things at the campuses to get kids there. We've been on we're on a 3-year upward trend since we've gotten out of COVID. And this year looked really good until we got the 4-6 weeks. That when I talk about it in terms of the old, that they still measure it by 6 weeks. So the 4-6 weeks, that was the only 6 weeks, and I don't know what was going on. There was something health-wise that was going through the district that held us down. But otherwise, we beat last year significantly on every measure, daily by 6 weeks, however you wanted to look at it. Mm-hmm. Do we have any other questions about what we provided you in the general fund or comments? Yes. Yes, I have it. Yes. Yeah, the 10 it was the 10-year comparison that we presented at the last workshop. I did. Okay. Mhm. Yeah. Yes.
I think one of the things we did wrong. I think we've run out of rabbits to let a hat. But we have a whole lot of red on slide.
Yes, sir.
And the way I see it, is without something like over years. But on our own, there are no more out of county. Nowhere, there's no other place to find. We're already going to the well on our fund balance this year. But there's earlier, not approaching, only it'll pass acceptable levels of risk for. So I think really the only way forward not doing that right. But one of the keys, but the teachers, staff, parents, those questions, there is actually something they can do. Make
In June. I'll be at the June board meeting. We'll have a public hearing and the motion to adopt. We'll be done spending ESSER money by September of 24. That's when the ESSER money is. Yes. Yes.
Well, the expense coming in from ESSER is instructional coaches, and that is boots on the ground, coaches helping teachers, getting the good results that we're getting. And so that would be kind of a last resort. When times got really tight, we'd have to look that direction. But in the meantime, we really need to retain those supports for classroom teachers.
I believe it was 19, was it not? It is. It is. They do get prorated out. They certainly don't cover the initial hit that you take, and they get prorated out as well. There's a limited number of funds that'll be distributed to the state. It's just like the fast growth allotment. So it's capped at $100 million. Let's just say, and right. So once it exceeds that amount statewide, then they start prorating everybody that qualifies down. Like we're right now we're slated to get 1.2 million in fast growth allotment. We earn by law 1.5, but they since they know what the fast growth allotment is going to be based on the last 6 years of enrollment, they know that it exceeds the cap. Correct. And the state can't know what that number is going to be until the year actually starts. So that's a nice surprise one way or the other. Normally a not nice surprise. Nope.
Debt service?
Yes. Y'all ready to move on to the debt service fund? All right. Debt service. Okay. So our intent is to maintain the 32.5 cent INS rate that we've had since 2022. The INS levy from that will be right around 36 million. That's about a $1.3 million increase from last year, and we'll get about 1.7 million of additional state aid because of the homestead exemption increases. That $37.7 million will be used to pay our principal and interest requirements, and I'll bring up what those look like in just a second. We will issue our remaining 55 million tomorrow. We won't have any new money issues after that. So we won't have a lot, if any transactions next year from a refunding or a defeasance standpoint. If the numbers come in where we have a little bit of opportunity, we would dive into the 2014s, which are currently refundable, or we could consider an advanced defeasance on the 2016s that we'll address in the 25-26 year. All right. Here is a picture of our estimated debt service requirements. I'll point you to the second column from the left. The big orange would be our estimate of the new money transaction, where we've got just under 13 million slated to be paid in principal in February of 25. The rest is level debt service that takes us out through 2054. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's a good start. The 25-26 year will get to address the 2016 bonds. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look at the bottom, you'll see a brighter green and is it purple? Not quite as purple as the ones up on top, but as you get out into the 2024, 2023 years, you'll see those bars get a lot bigger. That's when you have a lot of your principal redemptions from the 16s and 17s, and that's what I'm going to really address in 25, 26, and 26, 27 is knocking down those principals as much as possible with the gap that you've just been talking about, and then restructuring those to where it's more of a more level debt service and not that big principal chunk out at the end. We'll save a lot of interest. The intent is to push our recurring debt payments, which right now are in the a little bit above 25 million when we add on tomorrow's new money sale. Push that up more towards 30 after we do those two refinancings, and that will give us a nice gap still for a future bond election without having to raise the tax rate. And while we're waiting for that, continue to defease and knock down debt. All right. Any other questions or comments related to the debt service fund? Okay. Let's talk about child nutrition. Just a reminder that we must adopt by law a balanced budget for child nutrition. We do know of one position that we'll need to add next year at this point in time, and that'll be a manager for the Viola Wilson location. Right now, we're talking about being able to address the other food service worker positions with existing staff from other campuses that won't have as high an enrollment after we open Wilson. But at this time, we're promoting a $3.7 million budget on the revenue and expense side. That's based on the little over 5,800 meals that we're currently selling today. Yes. Yes. 2,300. Well, we have 2,300 economically disadvantaged children in the district. Sir. Yes. Yes. I think we were just looking at these numbers before. It was of the 2,300 eco-dis, I think 2,200 are sold each day on free and reduced. Yeah, there we go. There's economically disadvantaged rates and the participation rates. Yes. Yes. Yeah, and I know we're gonna go earlier and harder this year. Because I'm sorry.
Like the food services, the way we add parents add money to its account. I don't think it's within Skyward, is it?
You're talking about lunch money now? Yeah.
I was thinking about like student, you gotta get more meals served.
Mhm.
My daughter's always, it's a third party platform, so it's not easy for me to access, so there was a more seamless way to, for the parents to access it, they would probably be more inclined to that. But at some point, it's like, I forgot my password, I'll just know my password.
We're,
Yeah, it is, yeah. It's not very friendly.
the district is looking at a new point of sale software. We've done an RFP for that software, and it looks promising. I couldn't say, I'm not down into the details enough to know whether it could affect that level for the parents. Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure that they go and use it, but what because you can put in whatever amount of money you want. I don't think that goes straight to the district office. It's like credit, right? So the kids spend it, but after that, it's just like fun. I don't have access to whatever. So you from a cash cell. Idiot, yeah, it's the beginning of the year.
Thank you for those comments. So, Mark, do you want to talk about this a little bit? Northside has twice the economically disadvantaged rate that we do, and they have they have enough at campuses that they've implemented something called the community eligibility provision, which provides free and reduced to entire campuses regardless of their economically disadvantaged status.
Even out in the fact that
Yes. Yeah. Northside also has tremendous economies of scale. They have frozen warehouses much bigger than this campus that allows them to really dig in and do some cost savings on food that we just don't have here. But I guess what we would want to communicate about the child nutrition budget at this point in time is related to the uncertainty on what kind of positions we need to add or don't add, and that we will not get the change in free and reduced reimbursement rates until this summer. We wouldn't recommend a change in compensation at this point in time, but as soon, the key factor is those reimbursement rates. If we know we're going to get more, and we can predict based on what we're doing right now, because it does look like the Child Nutrition Fund is going to come in at about $140,000 surplus this year, which is great. But that's offset by positions you need to add. But if rates change, that could change the picture for child nutrition. Yes. Yeah, we'll certainly find we get those rates in July, after July 1st, and so there's the potential to make that assessment and change those rates before most of those auxiliary workers even start working that year. Increased. We haven't changed any pay rates since I've been here. Yes, ma'am. Sure. No. Ames, yes. Their participation rates are going to be high because they're not bound to the NSLP food regulations. So, French fries, yeah. It's something that we're paying attention to, the model that Alamo Heights has out. All right. Any other questions about the Child Nutrition Fund or comments? All right. Okay. So we'll meet again at the Team of 8 workshop, and we'll talk about the budget again and make you aware of any changes that may have occurred in estimates at that point in time. And come forward with a formal recommendation that we will take to the June board meeting, where we will have a public hearing and the adoption. And you will see the somewhat useless publication of the tax rate notices, and since that information's so preliminary, but we'll follow the law that's out there and publish those notices in late May.
President Fryer, any closing comments or questions? Yep. Thanks everyone for your time. Wish we had better news to share. but wanted you to see the true picture.
I'm